the new high school and technical center. And so with that, we also have Facebook Live streaming. Thank you, Shannon Walters, is helping us run things tonight. Really appreciate you, Shannon, supporting the tech and getting us rolling here. And so I'm Tom Flanagan. I'm the superintendent in Burlington Schools. I'll have the team introduce themselves. We'll do the presentation. We'll have a conversation. And with that.
Thanks, Tom. My name is Nathan Lavery. I'm the Burlington School District's Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Hi, I'm Joe White. I'm with White and Burke Real Estate Advisors, and our firm is serving as the project manager.
Hi, I'm Brian Lee. I'm the project manager with Freeman French Freeman, the lead architect for the project.
Great. So we have a fun video to get started that I think many of you in the room have seen, so I'm just going to keep moving on beyond the video, and we'll get right into the content. All right. Does anyone want to see the video right now? We all good?
It's a good video.
It's a great video. Yeah, it's online. You can see it. I'll need to be able to see this, Nathan. Thank you. So a couple points, and just sort of working to clarify and just want to make sure that you all know that we are available and accessible and open to conversation and email dialogue and feedback. And we've had a lot of that going on over the past number of months, and we look forward to that continuing to happen. Again, we want to make sure that the citizens of Burlington understand the issue and are fully informed and make a decision that they feel comfortable with. And so reasons that we believe that we have put a bond before the citizens of Burlington are that, number one, we need a thriving high school and technical center to have a healthy community. It's really important that our high school that serves about 1,000 students, we have a high school and a technical center, and so about 1,000 students and their families need a permanent home, a permanent PCB-free home. And that's something that we would not be able to get in a renovation of the old building. Good schools increase property values, and so it's beneficial for the fiscal health of the city and the individuals in the city as well. Macy's lease is going to expire in 2025, and so opening in 2025 is contingent upon the project starting in January. And so the timeline is really important. We have an aggressive timeline, but it's a realistic timeline if we're able to meet all of the parts along the path. And we've been able to this point. Obviously, November 8th is a big decision point. So big picture, a thriving high school and technical center is key to a healthy community. Second big point is that the cost of BHS BTC is what schools cost in New England. So we've done a pretty thorough analysis of schools. We've looked at a number of schools in Massachusetts. There are a number of schools being that are planned for Massachusetts in the coming years, and so we've looked at costs related to for those projects that are moving forward in Massachusetts and our cost. And so what we know is that this is a fair cost. It's right in the range of what it costs and will cost to build a high school, and so the cost of BHS BTC is what a school costs to build in New England at this point. And so we can get into sort of detail the square footage, but I won't get bogged down with that right now. Third point is cleaning up and renovating is not responsible. So financially and also ethically, I don't believe. The original project was a $70 million renovation project. We learned immediately after the $70 million was passed that it wasn't enough, and we actually needed about $90 million to complete the project. And so with inflation, that 90 is more, or that 70 is more, and the PCBs in a renovation will last forever. They'll never go away, and there will be always ongoing costs with a renovation of the high school. So we've been talking about a car. If you have a $5,000 car and you need a $5,000 transmission, it's totaled, right? And so this building is essentially totaled. The next kind of key point is that the new state funding formula that our school board took a major leadership role to ensure was passed. Beyond what anyone's expectation was, we didn't believe that we would pass this going in, but we knew it was a fight that we had to fight because it is a matter of principle and equity. There was an inequitable funding formula in our state. Our school board, with a number of other school boards, fought to fix that, and they fixed it with the support of our legislators and the state and a number of other districts. And so what that means is that new state funding formula will fund us equitably, and that, along with fundraising efforts that we are committed to doing through an MOU with the state, and just based on what we believe is that we need to keep looking for funding, will offset taxes. And so I think I've talked through that a bit. We can talk through the numbers as we get into conversation. But the key is that the new state funding formula and fundraising are going to offset taxes. And that's the presentation, and we're ready for discussion. We only have one mic tonight, so we're going to pass the mic around. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Who would like to ask a question?
Sorry I got here a little late. The main question I've had since the beginning is on the energy side. I think the plan is great. The question I have, however, is have the systems been designed? And what kind of financing structures are we looking at? Because today there's quite a bit of opportunity in energy as a service and other things like that could really dramatically help bring down the costs. And also just wanted, the last I heard, there's plans for a geothermal system. And just wanting to know, what we've learned at the Sustainability Academy, because that was the last time the school district implemented a large geothermal system. I know the school, when we were parents there, asked Burlington Electric a couple times, and I think they looked into what the savings were or what the offsets were, but it seems like, that was a pretty big technology investment there. We'd love to learn, what we can expect, and the performance of that system was used in trying to look at the performance of what we can expect at the high school.
Yeah, so as it happens, we actually had a discussion with the engineers and the construction manager team on some of these topics this afternoon. So to address that in order, the system is in design. We are looking at a geothermal. I apologize.
Press and hold. Swapping for live.
We have the mic as well, so on Facebook Live, so we want to make sure people can hear. We could talk without it easily.
All right, so I will project.
Yep.
There you go.
I think, hopefully we can even pick it up through the laptop's speaker. So we are designing a geothermal system as you described. We have done a test well on the site, so we do know a volume of water we got from that first well. There will be additional wells required for the system, but it gives us a good confidence in the direction of the design. That geothermal system, I don't know enough about the Sustainability Academy to draw a lot of comparisons, but it is a highly efficient system. We looked at the options from ranging from reusing or continuing to use the existing wood chip plant, more traditional systems. Burlington now has a regulation that requires us to use renewable energy sources for a new building. So that kind of defined our range. the new building's envelope and just systems efficiency will greatly reduce the amount of energy compared to the buildings from before. So the wood chip plant no longer made sense because it actually can't be run at a low enough fire level consistently to be reused. And the geothermal system sizing is designed around the both cooling and heating modes. So that's kind of the systems design piece. The other piece that's very important is there are a couple of funding sources. The ESSER funds that the district has already identified are geared towards improving air quality in schools. A significant amount of mechanical systems will be allocated to that funding source, which is already being looked at as one of the budgetary offsets for the project. Newly passed is the Inflation Reduction Act. We are actively looking at that. There are broad opportunities there. What we have to figure out, and we were discussing today, is the overlap of the funding from ESSER that we already have and are planning to use, and what would potentially not fall under that category and be eligible for an incentives money base from the IRA. And then, as a final piece, there are active discussions going on with solar providers for power purchase type arrangements so that we can have power generation on the site, potentially at no upfront capital cost to the district. And again, the Inflation Reduction Act offers potential for significant direct incentives. So the district will be looking with the district at which one is the most fiscally prudent.
And we've been in discussions with BED as well with their incentives.
Yes, so we've had meetings with BED. I could not quote the numbers off the top of my head, but they are looking at significant incentives as well for the project.
Anything wants to weigh in there?
Just want to add one other point to be clear, and Ryan, you may be able to discuss this in more detail, but when it comes to looking at the geothermal, obviously part of the equation was to make sure that the conditions on the site would support the use of geothermal. But it was also looked at through the prism of kind of a cost-benefit analysis, right, to make sure that essentially investing that money up front would actually give us a positive net return. So it obviously helps with some of the city's kind of larger energy goals, but we also looked at it from a pure kind of cost-benefit analysis. Is it better, is it more financially advantageous for the project and obviously for our community to move to a geothermal system? And the answer, based on the results we got, was yes.
My name's Ray. Hi, I'm Ray Ingram. I live down the road. Thanks for coming and asking questions. You said it's energy efficient design, but it seems like there's a lot of heat loss in the design, and which results in more energy use to maintain good comfort level. Future operating expenses to maintain that level of comfort may exceed the city's resources. You know, you're going with geothermal and other things. We're in an energy climate society. New thermal charter changes coming. We wish to reduce our consumption of energy. You probably already know all of that. Are there other energy efficient designs than one presented to us that would help us reduce our energy use to fight climate change? If that's basically my question. The first paragraph is stuff you already know.
Ray, are you still concerned about the windows? Because I know that was an issue that we talked about.
First thing I noticed, and the big airspaces require a lot more energy to circulate and heat.
Yeah, I can speak to that as well. Yeah, so you're identifying that that windows, you know, there are trade-offs in any design process, and if we were to design, solely to minimize the amount of heating or cooling, we can get into kind of strategies that were used, I'd say in the 70s in particular. People blocked in windows, people reduced natural light. The reality for us today with a lot of our technologies is that those strategies don't actually save enough energy, in the opinion of most design professionals, to be worth the compromise that it has on comfort and learning environments. And we also know that learning environments and student performance is directly tied to access to natural light, access to fresh air, and access to adequate space. So there are decisions that have to be made that are trade-offs, but the amount of energy this building will consume is it's a fraction of what the school district was paying for energy through all the years up until now. So we are confident that we're delivering a building that's high performance, and we've done energy modeling to ensure that we are making the best capital investment now to minimize energy costs over time. That to go farther with capital investment would not be prudent. To go farther with the capital investment in the building envelope would not be a prudent way to go. There are still the discussions of the sources of the power we do need, photovoltaics and so forth.
Yeah, and I would just add that in the decision of this option, so there were 5 options in front of us, in front of the school board, to decide which of the buildings that they thought was best for the community. They chose the option that was the most energy efficient because it was contained. So some of the other buildings were kind of spread a little bit more across the property. And so this building is pretty contained compared to the 7 different buildings that we now have connected by walkways, and also compared to the other 4 designs that we weighed and that the school board ultimately decided on. So energy efficiency has been one of the priorities of our design. And I think, as Brian mentioned, one of the other priorities that we've heard from students and families throughout this process when we engaged them on what they would like to see in a new building was light and access to the outdoors and spaces that were where students could be together, that were not only structured classrooms. So we've been trying to balance all those design elements that we wanted to have in the building, but it's a highly efficient design. And we are also, it's LEED for sure, LEED, which one? It's LEED, but also net zero ready. So we'll be building solar capacity on the building itself as well. So with a long-term goal of being net zero. So it is something that's been a part of our design. I really appreciate the question, because I think it's important that we're pushed on that. We need to be sure that the building that we're building now is sustainable for the future and is and keeps in mind the climate, right, and the impacts of climate change. So thank you.
Sorry, we only have one. We had more than one mic, but we have one mic.
That was a great question. I'd like to build on that, because I think,
I've never seen a better time for help with capital expenses, right? Because, if we're investing in a lot of these technologies, that they're typically expensive, but they pay for themselves over time. As you said, the ROI. Do we have any kind of estimates now with moving forward, how much we're going to lower the operating expenses? I'm sure we can finance and find people to help get the capital expenses down. As we think about this long term, what's this going to do for the operating? I'm assuming it's going to go down. Do we know how much? It's something to think about for long term money for teachers and other things.
Well, oh, there we go. See? So I don't think we know the concrete answer in terms of how much the operating expense will be reduced. As Brian already mentioned, we're very confident that when it comes to the energy use of the building, we're going to experience significant savings there. But I think one of the other examples, and there are probably more in the process, but that I think we also anticipate operating expenses associated with the design, just from the point of view of having to maintain the building. Obviously, newer features are going to require less maintenance, just like anything else, an appliance or car, whatever you buy new. But I'm actually thinking even beyond that, by being conscious about, for example, the choices we make with respect to things like flooring material. That can impact how difficult or easy it is to maintain the floors, how many custodians that we need to clean up the building, things like that. So we expect that the kind of total operating expenses going beyond just energy alone are going to come down with the new building, and that's going to afford us the opportunity, obviously, and ultimately to reduce pressure on taxpayers through just lower annual budgets.
Okay, my concerns are with the schedule of the construction. I'm going to have 2 excavating sites. I'm going to build a new building at a different location on the site. And we're going to have approximately a couple hundred yards away from a contaminated building on the east side. We have westerly prevailing winds. The risk of contamination to transport onto the new building lot are high. Timing wasn't a commitment. Would the city save money and have a cleaner, safer building site if the demolition was performed first and a new building located on a perfectly clean site? Could save excavation costs.
Is that working? Okay. So we do have a construction manager on board now who is working through all those logistics right now, working very closely with the environmental team so that they can coordinate the demo and abatement of the existing buildings along with the construction of the new building and site improvement. Right now, with our projected schedule, we are planning to have most of those buildings down and abated before a lot of the construction of the new building starts. There still might be some demo of the buildings that are higher up on the hill going on while we start construction of the new building down closer to Institute Road. But for the most part, most of those buildings and all of the environmental abatement will be out of the way. But they are required under state law to take into account just the coordination of remediation going on with new construction. So they do have to take certain precautions to wash the trucks before they leave the site and things like that, so that environmental contamination isn't spread beyond the site or even onto the new construction area.
Thank you. I've had people asking me as a city councilor what Plan B is for the district. So could you talk about if there are contingency plans and what the risks are to the community of not building this project?
Yeah, November 8th is an important day because we don't have a high school building beyond 2025. There's action starting to happen next door to Macy's, and we know that that Macy's building will ultimately come down and be it will be built on. And that, and so we don't have the current structure that we're in beyond 2025. So I think it's really important that everyone understands that, because that means that we really need to get moving on the removal of the old buildings as soon as we possibly can. Start that work in January of this school year so that we can be in a new building in August of 2025. If we don't pass it in November, that pushes us back significantly and leaves us in a space where we don't have a building in 2025. So that means I don't think there's another space in the city that could fit 1,000 students. We actually did look when we found Macy's. That leaves us with virtual learning. That leaves us without a building with 1,000 kids and in a virtual space. So I think it's important that everybody understands it's really an important decision now, and very important for the future of the high school in year 2025 and beyond.
I'll ask a question if no one else has one. There's been a lot of discussion on our New North End Facebook page, and I've been weighing in to a certain extent. And I'm disappointed that a lot of those folks aren't here tonight, actually, because they clearly have concerns and questions, but they chose not to come. So I'll repeat one of the questions that was asked last night at our board meeting, and you can choose to answer it or not, but it keeps coming up, which is that our costs per square foot are higher than costs, particularly in Massachusetts. That is one question that just keeps showing up. So I don't know if y'all could speak to that. My sense is, after listening to Jesse Beck last night, that those are costs that, looking backward 5-10 years, sure, the costs were way lower, but we're comparing now and future costs. So I don't know if you want to speak to that again.
Sure, yeah, I think you're 100% right that obviously it's not going to result in an accurate comparison to look at schools that were completed previously in a different construction environment, in a different inflationary environment. We actually, and I'm not sure that we have them here, so bear with me for a second. I will see. We may have included some extra slides. Yeah, we do. This may not be the most readable, but I'm going to put this up on the screen. We did take a look because Massachusetts has a very useful data set, in part because they offer significant state aid to schools or school districts to construct schools. And the first point I'll make about that, of course, is one of the things that has come up is this notion that our building is more expensive at a net level to taxpayers compared to Massachusetts. And that's inherently going to be true when in Massachusetts school districts are getting 20, 30, 40, 50% of their costs paid for by the state. That doesn't exist in Vermont. So inevitably, if you're only paying 50%, 50 cents on the dollar, it's going to be cheaper to the local taxpayer. So that's true, but for a reason that has more to do with state level policy in Massachusetts. But we did take a look at the construction cost per square foot of schools in Massachusetts that are on a similar construction trajectory, and therefore it seemed like reasonable for us to compare. We looked at a couple different ways. We talked to the firm that's built schools that we are working with, and that's we've talked about already. That shows that our costs are right in line. We also went to this website. We pulled a lot of the schools that have a construction completion date 2023 and beyond to see what our construction cost per square foot was projected to be relative to them. And while it's hard to read that, I understand people aren't going to be able to read it. Yeah, thanks for the laser pointer. You can see there's the BHS BTC 2025 bar. So among that data set that we were able to pull from the Massachusetts website, you can see that our costs are not only very reasonable, but they're actually relatively low on a construction cost per square foot basis compared to those schools in Massachusetts. So I think we all feel pretty confident that the costs are very reasonable. They're still high, there's no doubt about that. Construction is expensive, and building a school is one of the very expensive kind of constructions you can undertake. But it's very reasonable cost, and as Superintendent Flanagan mentioned, like, this is what it costs to build schools in today's environment.
Yeah, and I would also add that the school cost is not going to go down, right? Cost per square foot, construction costs are not going to go down; they're just going to go up. So it's important that we get moving now. Another question that has been coming up is, why are we just looking at construction costs? And we're using those as comparisons because those are the numbers that Massachusetts are putting out. So we're able to see those and do an apples to apples comparison as much as possible. Some people have been looking at the numbers differently and comparing apples and oranges, and so we're trying to be really intentional about apples to apples, which is square feet on the construction cost. And I would also say that we had a lot of success as a city, and with the coalition that was really, our school board was a key part of the coalition that got the funding formula passed in the legislature this past session. The state is interested in looking at funding for construction aid, and our Secretary of Education, Dan French, has talked about that as being something that he's interested in pursuing. I think that's a place where, as a city, we could put a lot of muscle behind pushing for construction aid. We're the only state in New England that doesn't provide construction aid. So that's a place for us to really put our energy toward advocacy at Montpelier in this next legislative cycle. And so we'll certainly be doing that, and we look for your partnership and help as well.
Thank you. Claire Wolf, Chair of the School Board. I wanted to ask the question for Facebook viewers, and I know we have a state representative here as well. Tiff, thank you for coming. We, as a school board, are very familiar with funding that is available at the state level, and that has been publicly announced, the $32 million for PCB remediation. We are the only school in the state that has been shut down, and the health department, with the health department and the EPA. Can you speak to us being first in line come January 2023, when the legislation is back in session in Montpelier, and our state leaders recognize our situation and our goals? I know our goals as a school board will be to absolutely fight for that money immediately to reduce this burden on taxpayers. We as a school board see this tremendous ask for a $165 million bond borrowing up to, and we are adamant that we as a city do not have to pay the full amount. This was a situation, an environmental situation that came into our world, and we are facing it, but we should not be facing this alone. So the message I bring as the school board representative is that, again, we are adamant that as a city, this burden is not fully on the shoulders of the taxpayers. We cannot afford this bond alone. And that if $32 million is sitting in Montpelier waiting to be distributed to those school districts that have been affected by PCBs, and we are the only school in the state that has been shut down and being put in a permanent department store for 5 years, what will be up to 5 years, the health and wealth of our school district and our school children and our taxpayers, for that matter, is of great concern as a state, especially coming from Burlington, which supports the state tremendously financially and socially, as well as other contributing school districts. But as a city in our state, we need their help.
Yeah, I would just put the microphones down. I would just say that we did meet with the majority of the governor's cabinet about 3 weeks ago, and we made a direct ask for 22 million of the 32 million, because 22 million is the cost of the remediation and removal of the old building. So we made that direct ask, and it was not the first time we made that ask. We made that ask back in April of 2022. Secretary French came, walked BHS, old BHS and new BHS, and told me that the old BHS is one of the worst high schools in the state before PCBs. So this is a problem we've known, not the PCB problem, but that our high school needed major changes. And then the PCBs really pushed that over the edge. So there is $32 million that the legislature passed last year to support PCB studying and remediation, and the sort of unknown of the PCB problem that will exist in the state. They're testing schools now. They've tested, last I heard, which was a couple of weeks ago, 7 schools. 2 of those had PCB concerns. That one at Cabot ended up shutting down the gym. So it's a big issue, but there is funding there. We've made the direct ask. We think our need is clear. We serve an amazing community, right? In a community where half of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. 17 to 18% of our students have special education needs. 15% of our students are English language learners, and they're the future of our state, right? So we have to invest in them. And the building that we send students to every day shows how much we care about them. So I think they understand that we care about them, because we've scrambled to get an ACES in place, and we're doing the best we can. But if we say, sorry, you've got to wait, it's not good for our students, and they are taking note. There's a parent that I met at the field hockey game earlier, the JV field hockey game, who said to me she was with her daughter and 2 other students, and those students saw new signs going up and were outraged that people didn't understand that they don't have a high school, and they don't have the prospect for a high school without the citizens of Burlington voting for them to have one. So I think we really need to think about the students we serve, and their great gifts and talents, and also the importance that we invest in them.
I'll just, I'm Kimberly, and I represent the South End, Catherine Stebbins, and I've been following this pretty closely, and we're very concerned about the vote, I guess, I'm not the decider, I'm heard on one voice, but the delegation, members of the delegation to the House have been talking. I, had an opportunity last night to speak with Senator Root. I think we are a united front in wanting to advocate strongly for Burlington. I also think, though, that there's an opportunity, because there are other schools around the state that are going to need remediation. It helps Burlington make the case, because it's all of us then. And then the state investing funds in school construction and PCB remediation is, you just have to fight that bullet. And it will not be then a Burlington specific ask. It will be part of a larger vision on improvement. I just want to say that I've heard you loud and clear, I've been canvassing in my own district because of the election, and brought it up at every single house I've been to, and have gotten a number of questions. So it has made me concerned about the vote, and I think it's really, really important that all of us who support the school say so to our friends, on social media, in every forum that we can find. I think it makes a difference. Thank you very much.
We have felt the support from the delegation. We've had a number of meetings with the group, and really have felt that support. So
well as an acknowledgement, our BHS high school students, thanks to you and Gabrielle, our state representatives, organizing that student-led Zoom, where student voices shared their concerns with you. That was incredibly impactful, well attended by many people. Thanks for organizing.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people told me, wow, you know, I hadn't really thought about what it was like to be a student in that, and I hadn't heard that voice because they may not be parents of, you know, kids who are attending high school. And, you know, all three of them said really important things. So thank you. That's really good.
Just another question. Do you want to speak again?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment too. You know, just wanted to bring up one potential opportunity is that there's a new initiative out that I just heard about with Justice 40, which has to do with the Department of Transportation. And basically, the money spent has to have at least 40% of the benefit going to disadvantaged communities. You know, hearing you speak of our student population and transportation and the pollution around transportation, other things like that, that might be definitely an angle to look at, because a lot of the new money is coming out through transportation, which really overlaps significantly with what's happening. So everything from the EPA paying for school buses that are electric, that can be used for demand response and other things to bring down bills. I think it's just a great angle. It's just been announced not long ago. And I think that, especially with some of the comments made, that it might be very beneficial to Burlington.
Okay. AJ, send that to me, and I'll make sure that our consultant gets it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. We'll be around if anyone wants to talk a little bit afterwards. We're here. A couple of school board members, a couple of members of the team that are working on the design. We have our BTC principal back there. Hi, Jason Reed. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. And so, yeah, we're here if anyone wants to talk. And we really appreciate you coming out and being here tonight and your support. And it means a lot. And your questions mean a lot. They help us make the plan stronger and make sure that we're thinking about all angles of this. So we really appreciate you all being here. Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Shannon, for running the show. And we'll be around. That's all.
If you
and anyone on Facebook who wants to sign up to volunteer,
visit www.bsdvt.org/BHS-BTC-2025. There's a sign up form. You can easily just get there by our homepage, and the board members will get your information and get your help. You will also find Superintendent Flanagan at Nunion's on November 3rd. Stay for a conversation on the bond or anything else in the district, and we'll buy you a coffee. And thank you to the volunteers who will be at Letty Arena this Saturday morning and next Saturday morning. They will also be able to answer your questions.
Thank you.